totally be honest. How hard is it for an independent record label to get started?
Well, Lisa, it's not hard as far as starting a record label. I think the emphasis should be put on sustaining a record label.
Okay.
How do you sustain as far as your local market? What's your genre of music, whether it's gospel, country, R&B, hip-hop? So a lot depends on your market, your local market in your local area. Are you trying to hit radio? Are you going for major radio play, college radio play? So it really depends on how much you are trying to gain from starting your own record label. It does give you independence, and in today's market with the power of the internet, it's a lot easier to start your own record label and to have a following as well. So I don't think it's hard at all. I think it just has to be the energy that you have within yourself to be an entrepreneur. Hello, and welcome back to YourMusicBiz.com. Now we turn to module number 3, where we're going to learn the importance of how you start and run your own record label. In module number 2, we learned the importance of publishing, copyrights, and performing rights organizations. In module number 1, we learned the importance of putting together your A-team. Now, with module number 3, we're going to learn how you choose and the pros and cons of either shopping for a label deal or running your own record label. In today's music field, educating yourself is vital in moving forward and establishing yourself as an entrepreneur. So as an entrepreneur, you make the decision, you take control over your own music career. So in running your own record label, we want to first look at some key items in running a record label and making the decision to do that. The first thing you want to do is look at, as far as your development as an artist or a company or a group, you want to look at your marketing plans, you want to look at your business plans, technology, marketing changes, and lastly, promotion. You have to make the decision as an entrepreneur is whether I'm going to take control over my career or whether I'm going to let someone else take control over my career. Now, the pros and cons are, today, there are major labels, subsidiaries, and independent labels. Today, your major labels are labels that are distributors as well. Whether you have your Sony, your EMI, your Universal, these are major labels, but they act as distributors as well because they have a distribution arm. So you have your major labels, but along with that, they have a distribution leg as well. Now you have your subsidiaries where the major label will basically distribute the subsidiary labels. Your smaller labels, they don't have the money that the major label does, but they can still do the job. So now you have an influx of alternative artists and other artists trying to get their music out through subsidiaries. Lastly, you have independent labels, which they may be a little smaller, but they're capturing a lot of steam within the last few years as far as operating on their own and moving forward in the music industry. But you want to determine, where do you fall into? You have to determine, should I go for a major label deal? Should I go for an independent deal? You have to decide that. Or you can say, you know what? I'm going to put my own product out. I'm going to be an entrepreneur. I'm going to go for it. I'm going to take control over my own music career. And there's nothing wrong with that. But you have to be realistic. First of all, you have to be realistic about your development as an artist. If you're developing and you want to put out CDs yourself, or you want to market that CD in your local city or state, then you have to say, you know what? How good am I to the community? Because that's my test market. So you want to do a test market. And the first thing you want to do is, once you get your product up and going, once you get your paperwork in order, and you start putting out local CDs, or you start performing locally, that's your test market to see, where do I stand before I go for it. There have been local bands that have made it onto a major label status through working their own market. Because what you want to do is, first locally, you want to, kind of establish yourself, get your feet wet, get some things going. The next thing you want to look at as far as your marketing plan, you can't do anything without having a plan. Because if you don't have a plan, you're going to plan to fail. And that's the biggest thing in the music and entertainment field. You know, please do not go into this field backwards. You have to come up with a plan. So the first thing you want to do is you want to combine between your business and marketing plan. First of all, as a business plan, like any other business, you want to establish yourself. Whether you're doing a DBA in your local city or state, whether you're doing a limited liability company, these are things you want to establish. Establish your name first. Get organized. That's the first thing you want to do. The next thing you want to do is develop a good plan. If you don't know how to do a business plan, find someone who can do a good business plan for your business, because what you have become is a business owner. You become a business entity. Whether you're a group, a band, an artist, a producer, whatever it is, develop that plan. Next thing you want to do is look at technology. As technology goes, so does most of your artist's career, your company's go as well. So you want to look at, as far as the advances in technology, and one of the things we're going to talk about further is the power of the internet. We're going to talk about that a little bit later in the module. The next thing is marketing changes. You have to stay abreast with the changes in marketing strategy, to where it's not just as simple as sending your CD or mailing your bio out to a record label. Now you have, with technology, you have to promote in a different manner. You know, we're in the stage of, we want to get an artist in the door a lot quicker than before. Because going back to artist development, major labels, 1 out of 10 artists makes it in the industry. 1 out of 10. So in music, 90% failure on a major label status. That means that when a major label puts money into an artist, as far as artist development, they're taking a big risk. So that risk, as far as the money to promote, to get that artist out there, but only 1 out of 10 will have a return on investment. So what you have to do, as far as how you beat those odds, you may bypass a certain level of major label, subsidiary label, but maybe going to an independent label situation to get your career going. And then you can advance upwards towards that distribution dollar later on. And as far as lastly, we're going to touch on promotion. So let's get to work on how we start our own record label. First of all, to start your label, you have to have something to start, right? You have to have an artist. You have to have a song. You have to have an entity, a band or something to start that label. So you look at, where does the investment start? Because first of all, you're going to start with, you have your business plan in order, your name is registered, you're ready to get things going. Next, you want to look at, do I look for an investor? Do I find a family, a friend? Do I find someone that I can trust that may be willing to invest in my label? If not, then you may want to go to a bank or possibly getting a loan. But you better make sure that that business plan is in order along with your marketing plan. So that's one thing you want to make sure that you have in order. The next thing you want to do is say, you know what, I have a good product. Where should I put my money into? Should my money go into promotion, marketing, artist development, putting out records, studio costs? These are the things you have to look at. So come up with a realistic budget. Now people can record in their homes. Technology has advanced us to where we have more technology as far as recording tools, where a lot of people aren't going to the big major studios anymore to record 15 songs. Those days are gone. Because now with the power of the internet, individuals are selling single songs now. They're not selling whole albums. They're marketing themselves starting out with 1 or 2 songs. So studio budgets have gone down. Some people, they have learned the new technology, such as Pro Tools, to learn advanced technology in recording themselves. So these are the things that you want to look at. So now is the best time to be in the record business because of the new technology and the advances in marketing. Now is a great time for independent artists to start their own thing. As far as your marketing plan, you want to look at your competition. You want to look at your local town, your city or state. You want to look at who is my competition in the city. Where's my local radio, local magazines, local newspapers? I got to establish a marketing plan centered around your local market. Whether you're doing rock, gospel, jazz, it doesn't matter. You still want to have a local base to where you can push and promote your music. So these are the things that are going to your marketing plan. So before you step foot in a studio, before you sign an artist to your label, before you do anything else, make sure you have a realistic view of what your business plan and what your marketing plan is going to be like. Because that will dictate as far as the technology and marketing changes and promotions as far as the tools that you're going to do.
What are some of the do's and don'ts that someone getting started off as their own independent record label should look forward to and should not look forward to?
Yes, I strongly recommend that any individuals who are starting their own record label to first start with a basic business plan.
Okay.
If you don't have a business plan, you're planning to fail. Okay? You have to understand the music inside out. Starting your label is like being an entrepreneur and starting your own business.
Okay.
The same steps. Whether you're utilizing an entertainment lawyer, an accountant, understand the procedures of registering your business, whether it's a limited liability company, S corporation, or just as a sole proprietorship.
Okay.
These things you have to look at starting your business and getting your paperwork in order. And the biggest thing as far as having a marketing plan for your record label. You know, whether you are marketing an artist, a producer, a songwriter. These things will come up under your record label. Okay, so now we've established that. We're ready to go. We have our artist, and our artist, she wants to get a record deal. Let's say, for instance, she has a song, but she has no one to get that song to. And as we touched on in our A team, she needs to partner with another individual, whether it's a producer or songwriter, to kind of close that gap of, you know, having a song to perform or putting a song out for recording. The next step is going back to your budget. Where do I find a studio? You know, do I go to someone who has maybe an in-home studio, major studio? Because at that point, we are paying, in our marketing plan, we're sticking with that, and in our budget, we're paying for pre-production. So the pre-production will be the artists, the musicians, the producer, the studio, the engineer. That's all of your pre-production and starting your label. So because as we're going back to your production team, that's part of your A team. So as an independent label, you can't have an independent label without a production team being in place, you know, unless you're just going to be an administrator. But if you are in this as a record label, you want to have a production team in place. So after that's in place, let's go with the business plan, because we're looking to get money into our business. So we're utilizing our pre-production. You take your pre-production, you're going to send that over to a potential investor or someone who's, you know, maybe gifted in that field, someone who can take your career further. So you take that demo tape or that demo production or whatever it is you want to do for a potential investor as far as your financial piece in that business plan. If you are fortunate and you get monies for your label, the first thing you want to do is determine, do I have more than one artist on my label, 2 or 3? What do I do? You know, how do I determine what's going to be best for my label? I would recommend that you start off slowly. In this business, you have to do things one step at a time, because it's vital that you educate yourself in the business. So you start off with one artist, you start off with one project, you make sure that you organize your business, make sure that you organize your local market, because at the end of the day, the ultimate goal for your independent label is to sell records locally, to get radio play locally, to establish your company locally. That's the ultimate goal of your independent label. So now we've established that business plan. You have the necessary funding. Now, with technology, all the tools that you have in artist development, because with the internet is a powerful tool. So now, guess what? You have a way in which you can get your music out there a lot further independently. You don't have to wait on a distributor. You don't have to wait on someone independently to distribute your product. The power of the internet is called e-music retail. So with e-music retail, there are a number of e-music retailers online where you can get your independent product to. And once you establish that, they can help you promote that across the country. As a matter of fact, realistically across the world. Because we're in a time where you can get your music to an individual in London, England within a matter of seconds. That's a powerful tool to have as far as in internet marketing. So you want to make sure that you understand as far as with artist development, with your marketing plan, make sure you have a good business plan if you are going to start a record label, independent record label. And I want to talk about one other thing to go along with the record label. A production company and a record label are two different entities. A production company is establishing production to prepare the artist for a record deal or to prepare them for some independent entity in the music field. That's a production company, and that's based on your production team. A record label administers the song, puts the song out, promote, publicize, generate business for that particular item. Because at the end of the day, it's all about that song. It's all about that song. The next thing, as far as embracing change, there's been a lot of changes within the past century in music, but change has been inevitable in the music industry. Whether you're dealing with the 60s and 70s, whether you're going towards the 80s or the 90s, it's been evolving around that. In the past 10 years, CD sales have gone down 40%. The selling of the tangible item we know as a CD has decreased by 40% in sales. So now, downloads, legal downloads, have risen over 22% within the past 5 years. So there's a balance. Some people say, well, the music industry is dying. It's not dying. It's that we haven't embraced change when it comes to technology. So now before you can get a whole album, you know, before you had to buy a whole album in order to get to one song, okay? But now the power of e-music retailers where you can go on and get one single for 99 cents. So guess what? The internet is giving you an edge now as an independent record label owner and as an entrepreneur. That power is shifted to you to adapt to technology, to embrace change with technology, and to keep up with the pace. You either adapt or you fall behind. It's either one or the other. So you have to be able to adapt. And adapting covers everything that's on here. Because some things, if you say, well, you know, as an independent label, I'm just going to use the internet, put a few records out, I really don't need a business plan. That's fine. That's up to you. But in terms of being organized, being efficient in the music business, and seeing your career go further, you want to have a solid plan, a solid marketing plan. And you want to be able to adapt to the various technology and marketing changes. So it's an exciting time to run your own record label. It's an exciting time to be an entrepreneur. And for most of us, it's an exciting time to fulfill your dreams in the music business because you can do it independently, you can do it efficiently, and you can have fun doing it. Because with technology, with certain changes, now guess what? You can move forward. So running your own record label is great, but being organized and understanding the business of music is even greater, and is more so when you're trying to do it yourself. So that's going to conclude our module number 3, in terms of how to start and run your own record label. Remember the entities of marketing plans, business plan, having proper artist development, promotion and publicity. Those are key to running your own label. Knowing where to put your monies, whether you put more money into promotion, artist development, you know, or in your marketing plan, you make that determination. But it's a great time to do it. And remember, embracing change will only make you very sufficient in the music industry. So that'll do it for module number 3. If I have any questions from my audience, we will take those questions at this time. Thank you. Okay, what I mean is that as an independent entrepreneur and label owner, you have to really keep in mind as far as the time that it takes to promote your label as well as that artist, because you want to be able to put 100% into that artist, crafting that talent, the development of that artist, the monies, the promotions, and putting in that artist, because unless you have an influx of income, You want to be real careful with your budget. So that's why I really highly recommend getting that first artist out to launch your label. I think that's key. But don't get me wrong, you can have more than one artist on the label, but I would say if you have more than one artist signed to that label, make sure you make it perfectly clear to that other artist that this is the first artist that's coming out of the gate. This is the first artist that we're going to promote, put money behind, and then after that is established, then we come back to that next artist. Because even in major label situations, you have individuals, and first of all, I would like to say, just because you sign a record deal doesn't mean you are coming out as an artist. Just because you sign a label deal, So doing it yourself, you're taking more control over your situation. Nobody can say when you can come out or not. There's no end to that. So hopefully that answered your question. Okay, thank you.
Okay, Chris, you mentioned earlier that a lot of artists aren't doing like 10 or 12 songs anymore, and that you should put maybe your all into maybe developing like 1 or 2 singles. At what point after those songs have been pushed out there do you actually start making a CD and push that out there?
Okay, that's a great question. As you're developing your project, you want to keep the wheels turning. A lot of times individuals, they'll start working on a whole album for a year or 6 months, and they're taking time out. They're not out there really publicizing themselves. You can utilize a single as a tool for promotions to get your career going and to get some buzz, maybe radio buzz, street buzz, building an audience behind one single before you start working on an album, because that basically will take away from your creative juices, and you can have a burnout factor. I've worked with artists where they started working on the album, next thing you know, Christmas is here, okay, summer is here, and you're still working on the same album, and guess what? As I talked about before, the music industry evolves and changes, so you want to kind of keep up with the necessary changes, and I'm not saying your music may be outdated, but the thing is that we're in a world of, kind of trendy to where your music is relevant, and if your music is relevant to your creative juices, you want to have something out there where the public can still hear from you. The public doesn't want to wait and hear from you. They want to hear from you now, So, I hope that answered your question.
Thank you.
Okay.
Hey, Chris, you talked about having, as far as getting yourself out there as an artist, you spoke about possibly going through a major label, and you also spoke about doing it yourself. Is it possible to do both?
Okay, that's a great question. It's very possible to do both, because the major label or the subsidiary will look at how well you are doing in your local market. Those are determined by radio play, by local CD sales, so it is very possible to do both. As a matter of fact, I would recommend that you still keep your eyes and ears open to the things that are going on in the major label market. But still, independently, you want to have that control, you want to be sufficient, and plus it's a great way to educate and learn from the business if you're doing it yourself. Because if you go directly to a label, most artists don't have a clue of what publishing is and licensing agreements and the whole 9 yards. If you do it yourself, you're learning as you go. So the mistakes that you make, that's your own investment. Considering if you sign a bad deal and you can't get out of that deal and you can't start your own independent label. So you would first want to see what success you can achieve on your own. So that's why I'm providing the necessary resources to build up your ladder to success. So if you utilize your own resources for success compared to using someone else's resources, you are better off, especially at this stage where it's a great time to be in the industry because of the technology change.